name's Nicole Reed for Darvanalee Designs Studio, and today we're working on a multi-combination of techniques on a quilt. We're going to be using the Q-bot for our borders and corners, and we're also going to be doing some free motion in the center of the quilt. We have applique to go around, and as we're going I will film the different parts that we're doing. If you're new here, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that little bell icon beside the subscribe button, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. So let's get started on the quilt. Alright, so let's get started on this quilt. Basically what I'm going to be doing today is borders and corners and some free motion. So I'm going to be using Q-bot in conjunction with free motion, so it's a combination quilt. These quilts take a little bit longer, so this quilt will actually be in the frame for a couple of days. I've got to but the first thing I've got to do is actually start on the border, the top border. So I've got the quilt all basted in and whatnot. I've got a few little things that I've still got to do to get ready to start. So I've got to trace out a new design and the corners and do some adjusting and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get started on that, and then I'm going to come back here and we'll be ready to quilt. Okay, so I've gone into my software, and what I've done is I have taken the file that I have purchased and I have put that into the software, and I've readjusted the size, and now I'm just doing my 4-point scaling, which I've already done off camera. And what the machine is actually doing now is it is actually tracing the area that it's got a quilt in, and it's just doing that just in case I'm not completely straight in the machine. So you can see there it's just tracing out where I'm going to be stitching from, and I've got some center points and stuff marked so I know where to make sure that it's going to hit around about those points, and I'm just making sure. And what will happen is, why it's doing that is it's going to actually stitch the design in that area. It just makes it easier. So the pattern that I've purchased, I've elongated that, and I've actually made it a little bit higher than what it was. It was actually like a 3-inch, I think it was, that it come up in the software, but I've stretched that out, so it's just disengaged, so it's finished tracing out the area. So we're going to get started with the design now. Okay, so we've done all our prep work and everything like that, so we're just going to get the machine to start stitching, and we're going to get going, and it's going to start stitching out. I'm going to turn the speed up on this a little bit, so you can see there it's starting to stitch out the gum leaves. And the reason I'm starting in is because when I spin the quilt, because I will actually spin this quilt, I will end up coming out this way and they'll all nest in really nicely together. So I've got it, that whole border will get done. So you can see there it's starting to stitch out. Our stitch length is set at 11 stitches per inch. We've reset our trip meter, and basically what it's going to do is it's going to stitch out leaves, and it's actually stitching out a little gum nut right now. I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but you can see there's a little gum nut, and we're just using a cream thread top and bottom. Before I started, I tested all the tensions and everything to make sure we're at the right tension, and it's stitching out just beautifully. It's subtle, but it's there. And because we didn't want it to detract from the beautiful design that we've got here, but we wanted the leaves to be in there. So we've stitched out some of the beginning of the border. We're about halfway through, and I've done a overlay over that, so it just gives it like a slight echoing, just to intensify that quilting a little bit. So you can see there that it's all come along just nicely, and we're going to continue doing that for all the border. Okay, so I've done the first border and that's all done and quilted out with the Q-bot, and now I'm going to do some free motion. So I'm working in the center of the quilt at the moment, and the edge of the quilt is basted down. So to go with the flying geese that we've got going on here, I'm actually going to do like a zigzag all the way along. Now basically it works out to be about 4 inches spaced apart, and I've done some marking with some tailor's chalk, which will just rub off. And I'm going to use my ruler, just my little ruler as a guide. And basically I've come right in at the corner here, and I've brought my bobbin thread up, and we're going to basically come down, hit this corner, and then bounce back up to this spot just up here. Okay, so I've started doing the flying geese. I'm doing in the cream part, and what I'm doing is just doing like a little swirl that goes all the way around it, and you can see here it's starting to make those flying geese just pop out a little bit. Okay, so we've just rolled the quilt up, and I've basted in my sides because I've got to turn this quilt later on. So when you're going to turn your quilt, you definitely want to baste down all the way down your sides. That it just makes it for easier reloading. Okay, and I'm not sure if you can see that on camera or not, but I have actually finished doing the flying geese up there. I'm going to do ribbon candy on the coloured bit. The brown is going to stay neutral with nothing on it. The gold is going to have the triangles on it, like I did up the top there. And then around the birds, I'm just going to do a real simple stipple, which is like a micro stipple. So again, I'm leaving my stitch per inch at 13 because it stops those what they call eyelashes, I guess they look like, similar to that, so it ends up working out really neat and tidy. So I'm going to continue on with that. Okay, so I'm on the second pass. It's 6 AM the next day after doing the first row. So now what I've got to do when I come to each row, I basically baste down the side, and then I'm going to in-ditch around the brown border down here and around the green one, and I'll do that across the quilt, and then I'll start doing the infill stuff, so the stippling here, the ribbon candy around that one, and then I finish off the flying geese. And the reason that I do that is because that anchors everything down and nothing's going to move on me, so I won't get wonky borders or anything like that. So if you've never done something like this, my suggestion is in-ditch everything down, and then nothing's going to move on you. And especially if you do have to rotate the quilt like we do with this particular one, it's really good to anchor everything down because nothing's going to move as you roll the quilt up in the leader roll. Okay, so you can see here that it's quite a large quilt. We've got that draped over. So it's 4 birds down in the panels and 3 across, so 12 all up. And it's got flying geese between it and also some borders. So basically what we've done is we have done done a eucalyptus leaf in the border, so you can see that just there, and that was using Cubot, and we had to resize that from the original pattern. And then I've done a slight echo on it, which I'm not sure it's picking up on camera, but we've done a slight echo on it just to give it a little bit more texture. We've left the brown borders with nothing on them, and then we've done some ruler work along here just to highlight the triangles. We've done what look like little gum nuts across there, and I've repeated wherever it was a gold border. We have just done some straight stitching, and I've done all around the flying geese, and you can see as I step back it actually highlights them a little bit more. And then we've added the triangles in on the side, and then around each bird panel we have actually done some stippling. So that's basically what we've done, and we've also done some candy ribbon, I don't know if you can see it, just along there as well. So we've done all that around every single one, so it's a combination of ruler work, free motion, and also Cubot, and I think it's come up absolutely gorgeous. I love this quilt. It's been an absolute pleasure to work on. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today. I really hope that you enjoyed what I've shown you today and what I've done on this quilt. It might give you some ideas of something that you can do that's a little bit different for your next quilt. If you did like this video, please give us a thumbs up down below, and as always leave us a comment because we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you thought, and if you like what you've seen here today, consider subscribing to our channel and hit that little bell icon beside the subscribe button, and that way you won't miss out on any future content. I'm Nicole Reed for Darvanalee Designs Studio. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Happy quilting everybody, and bye for now.